All right, Shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha Hudash. I'd like to say double honors to my teachers, the apostles, the bishops, and the elders of Great Millstone, the men whom I've learned this truth from. And I'd also like to say Shalom and salutations to the brothers of the hopeful elect that are out there preaching this word in truth and sincerity. I'm the brother Shaquat. I'm one of the brothers from the branch of Great Millstone, Montreal. And I'm back once again with another lesson. And this lesson that I'm going to be getting into today is pretty much inspired based off uh, a few things that were mentioned on our Tuesday camp, right? And as you can see, the title is "Make Not Provision of the Flesh," right? So without further ado, I'm just going to jump straight into it and begin with getting the definition of the word provision in the online etymology. It says foresight, prudence, care, also a providing beforehand, action of arranging in advance, right? It says a foreseeing, foresight, preparation, uh, preventation, look ahead. The meaning, something provided, supply of necessary things, right? It says is attested from mid 15C, specific sense of supply of food. In law, a stipulation, a distinct clause in the statute, a rule or principle, right? But the point really being is, the point I really wanted to get here was foresight, right? And providing something, right? There was another point. It says providing beforehand, action or arranging in advance, right? Because dealing with us as individuals, right? Matter of fact, let me read the precept first. This is Romans 13 and verse 13. It says, "Let us walk honestly as in the day, not in rioting and drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, not in strife and envying." Right. And those are worldly things, right? Those are things that are of the flesh, right? Not being honest, being dishonest, right? That's something that's of the world. Rioting, drunkenness, right? Excessive drinking, chambering, which goes into those large public events, you know. It says wantonness, right? Here it says wanton, a cruel or violent action, deliberate and unprovoked. Oh wow, it says second definition dated sexually unrestrained or having many casual sexual relationships. It says growing, right? So not being able to control your lust, simply put, right? But then it could also mean of a cruel or violent action, deliberate and unprovoked, right? Not in strife. Strife is conflict, right? Problems, constantly causing problems. Salakia. Hold on, pause. All right, Khan. So, right, strife, conflict, being angry, or bitter disagreement over fundamental issues, right? Conflict. So, being in the truth, we shouldn't desire to pretty much want to have problems, man, because that's fleshly. Envying, and right, we shouldn't envy one another because we understand how the Lord deals. The Lord gives to every man according to his portion, right? So you can't look at another brother and envy him for having something you don't, you know, which that's fleshly, man. Because if you're in the spirit, you'll know, oh, okay, that's the brother's portion. That's what the Lord has given to that brother, because the Lord sees fit for that brother to have whatever that is that he has. All right. That's being in the spirit, rationalizing, thinking rationally. Um, Verse 14, it says, but put ye on the Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, and make not provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof, right? So we put on Yahushua, as a covering, as a shield, and to not make provision for the flesh. And like I said, or like I brought out, the definition of that word provision goes into a providing beforehand, action, arranging in events and in advance, right? Because you could arrange in events for the flesh. You could set things up to where um, the flesh could benefit. But on the contrary, you could do that with the spirit too, man. You can make provision for the spirit. You can set it up to where um, it's going to be beneficial for you in the spirit rather than the flesh. And a few examples of that, like we went into um, into a Tuesday camp, right? Leaving your scriptures open, you know, uh, leaving your scriptures open to a particular page that so before you go to sleep and when you wake up, it's there and you read it. It's automatic, it's set. And something that the elder apostle Aramla does is what hit the button, right? You just press record and you just let the spirit flow. And guess what? The spirit will catch you, or you'll catch the spirit. Eventually, once you start talking, and that's making provision for the flesh of Salakia, wow, Satan, but that's making provision for the spirit by doing things like that, man. All right. This is the book of Ephesians 4, and I'm going to start at verse 22. It says that ye put off concerning the former conversation the old man, which is corrupt according to deceitful lust. That's right. Because prior to being in this truth, we were corrupt, according to deceitful lust, right? We grew up and were raised in a society that was corrupt and full of wickedness, and pretty much imprinted that wickedness in us, right? But being in this truth, we have the opportunity and luxury to be able to wash those things away, to wash that filthy mindset away, right? And it's through these words. Matter of fact, let me get a quick precept. This is Psalms 119 and verse 9. It says, wherewithal shall a young man cleanse his ways? By taking heed thereto according to thy word. So if you take heed to the words of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, that's gonna cleanse you, because that's a reprogramming of your mind from the world to the spirit, pretty much. From the flesh to the spirit, right? To pretty much simplify it, because you're learning the right way to think, the right way to operate, the right way to behave, the right way to carry yourself, the right way to speak. You're relearning these things over and over. It's like you're relearning these things over again, And that's why there was such a heavy emphasis, or that's why that parable, or yeah, that parable that Yahushua spoke about with um Nicodemus, I believe, right? Of you being born again, you know, that means you literally, it's not a literal being born again, but symbolic to what's being done inwardly, man. And what's being done inwardly is a transformation, a shift in gears, man. You know, a reprogram. you know, right. It says so. Let's go back to the book of Ephesians 4:22, that ye put off concerning the former conversation the old man. And what's the old man? It's the man that was in the world, the man that was before the truth, right? Which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust. Matter of fact, let me get this real quick. Colossians 3 and verse, I'm going to start at 5. It says, mortify therefore your members which are upon the earth, right? Look up that word mortify real quick. It says mortify, embrace, hurt, cause someone to feel embarrassed, ashamed, or humiliated. More second definition, subdue the body or its needs and desires by self-denial or discipline. So control your members, right? So pretty much, right? Control your members which are upon the earth, which is this body, right? Fornication, uncleanliness, inordinate affection, evil concupiscence, and covetousness, which is idolatry, right? For which things sake the wrath of the Most High cometh on the children of men of disobedience, and these things come because of the flesh, man. But you have to be able to control these things. You can't avoid them because they're there, but you can discipline yourself to be like, okay, this is not right, this is wrong, and not feed into it, right? Verse 6, for which things sake the wrath of the Most High cometh on the children of disobedience, in the which ye also walk sometime when ye lived in them, right? And being in the world, this is how we walk, this is how we lived. That's how we thought, that's how we operated, right? Verse 8, but now ye also put off all these: anger, wrath, malice, blasphemy, filthy communication out of your mouth, right? So we put those things off. The truth, this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, this word gives us the opportunity to cleanse these things out of us, right? And it's a process. It's not something that happens overnight, obviously, right? But it's a process, But these things can get taken away from us, or washed away from us, rather. So going back to Ephesians 4, verse 22 again, it says that you put off concerning the former conversation the old man, which is corrupt according to the deceitful lust, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that ye put on the new man, which is after the Most High, is created in righteousness and true holiness. That's right. So that's that new man, right? But that new man still has to be built. That new man still has to be, still has to grow, right? Because like that's what being born again is, right? The old man dying and the new man being born, but that new man is not born an adult right away, right? But he goes through the phases spiritually as a child, adolescent child, teenager, young adult, adult, and then elder, so on and so forth. You know, so this is Romans. So this is 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 17. It says, "Therefore, if any man be in Hamashiach, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new." That's right. So that's what Yahweh Shai is, man. The word. He washes the old, and the new man is begun to grow. Amen. So with that, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rachah Kodash. Once again, the belongings to my teachers, the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone. And as always, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. Until next time, Shalom.